Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I am your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a clan 2v2 battle. I'm going to be the green Confederate player, and my ally Bullet 82 MK2 is going to be the blue Confederate player. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be facing off against two resistance players on this map here, and we got a pretty long battle lined up here. So let's go ahead and get into it. We can see that yellow is HQ2 at this time, red is already HQ3 at this time. Looks like they're upgrading 2 barracks for double grenadier production. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade my barracks to get some fire assaults out. I've got a rifleman, or excuse me, an assault on the top of the cliff there for scouting. Here comes my cyclone, just getting a scout on the red players and yellow players' bases. I was only able to scout the yellow player, but we saw that there were some porcupines and jaguar tanks out, so we can see a conventional build coming from the yellow player. Bullet's now going to get that scout on the red player that I was missing, and we can see that yellow is actually going to go for HQ4 this time. Yellow is rank 19, red is rank 20, but looks like yellow is going to be teching up faster. So I'm going to go ahead and tech up to HQ4 as well. Bullet's Vertex, meanwhile, just raining down some fire onto these units from the red player. Looks like the two sides are starting to fight for this large resource container on the side of the map. The Vertex are dishing out some good damage against the red player. They're just scoring some free hits onto the red player. And we can see that Bullet's sending some infantry to try and capture that resource container, but I don't think that's going to work out. Because there's too many dragonflies in the area, but that is going to allow for Bullet to still score some hits with the Vertex. Meanwhile, Bullet is also going to tech up to HQ4 just to get some more units and aviation out. I'm going to go for a full ground build, going for a mix of fire assaults, hammer tanks, and shield generators to support them. Looks like Bullet is going to go for a mix of ground units with some aviation. Bullet's also got an X facility out, so we'll probably see some heroes on the battlefield. For both Bullet and I, our plans are to try and get some heroes out to fulfill some special contracts that have been going on. So we're going to see how that pans out. Looks like we got a hawk from the red player. Red's getting now a scout onto Bullet and myself. That scout is going to get intercepted though. Those Vertex clean up the hawk very nicely. So we can see that there's now a JCP army potentially moving in onto my base here, and that's quite a bit of jaguar tanks, very heavy on the jaguar tanks, 2 chameleons to support. I just don't have enough hammer tanks in position here. I've split my ground army up, and about a fraction of my tanks are here, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and move whatever tanks I've got in position into the area. One of the chameleons is down, but these tanks are slowly cleaning up my tanks here on my side. I've only got the shield generator. I need to move the rest of my ground army into position. Most of my army is out of position, but Bullet's got the Vertex to provide some covering fire in the meantime. We can see that this JCP army has lost all of its anti-air support, so now it's just down to Jaguar tanks. And while Jaguar tanks are strong, they are not invincible by themselves. We can see these Jaguar tanks are now parked right in front of some of my infrastructure here. So we're trying to save the factories here and defend. Hopefully we'll be able to keep the factories alive. Here comes the cavalry from my end. Full ground army moving in. We got hammer tanks, fire assaults. Only a couple of Jaguar tanks left from the yellow player's attack force, and it's going to get cleaned up. Bullet, meanwhile, is going to try and secure this resource container here. Bullet's got a nice mix of infantry with hammer tanks here. Red's trying to move in with a mix of dragonflies, porcupines, and grenadiers. Very classic resistance combination. Bullet is going to push back the red player though with his hammer tanks, and it looks like grenadiers are starting to come out of the woodworks. And I'm actually going to tell Bullet here to fall back, because hammer tanks versus grenadiers does not necessarily end well, and really want Bullet to make sure that he keeps his units alive. So Bullet is going to secure those last bits of resources very nicely. Those hammer tank and infantry here are trying to just defend this area. Bullet's actually going to take the hammer tanks back to his base and is potentially going to leave the infantry. Meanwhile, on my end, I am going to move a full ground army onto this yellow player. We've got hammer tanks, fire assaults and shield generator mixed in together, a red common attack boost going. And we can see that this JCP trying to defend this entrance, but I just have way too many units here for Yellow to deal with. Yellow is in trouble. So I've decimated all of Yellow's army, and now I'm at the doorstep for the Yellow player. Vertex, meanwhile, for Bullet, doing a really nice job just defending against the Red player's army. So now I'm forcing Red and Yellow to respond to my attack here. And that's exactly what I want. I just want to apply some pressure here with my infantry and my hammer tanks. So construction yard is going to go down. I'm going to throw on a red attack boost there for the vehicles. Fire assaults are moving in to try and deal with some of the leftover grenadiers. But as we can see here, my hammer tanks don't really have the maneuverability they need to be most effective. And the Jaguar tanks are starting to pile in from both the red and yellow players. So I'm going to go ahead and retreat here. And we're just going to pull back for the time being while I rebuild my ground army. There's a Dragonfly there. It's going to get shot down by my Heavy Assault and my Typhoon. Porcupine coming in to scout my forces here, but I've got enough forces to discourage the resistance side from attacking for now. So, looks like I am bringing out my own X facility. There's a prototype factory in there that just got cleaned up by Bullets and Vertex. We're just trying to keep the red and yellow players from bringing out any heroes. We want to be the only ones with heroes on the battlefield. So now I'm going to move in with another attack force. Hammers and fire assaults moving in once again. Let's see how this pans out. There is another chameleon to help defend, but again, I've got the superiority in terms of numbers, and my army is going to just shred this JCP army, or I should say chameleon army. And now we're starting to clean up some more buildings once again. Sniper tower goes down, AV factory level 1 goes down. My shield generator is going to activate, but this time I'm actually going to pull out. I don't want to do a full commit just yet. I still need to get some hero kills, so I just left my fire assaults in the mix there to dish out some damage and allow my tanks to escape. And here we go. Bullet is now applying pressure from the center of the map. Bullet's got the heavier armor mix of Zeus tanks, Solaris, and infantry. There was a Seraphim in the mix, but it got shot down. Looks like Red is trying to defend the front entrance there with Dragonflies and a Sniper Tower, but that's not going to be enough. We can see now there's actually an assault unfolding here on this side, so now I'm going to move in once again, and we're going to go ahead and try to take care of this combined Grenadier and Jaguar army. And looks like my ground troops are doing really nicely just to clean up this army, and that was no problem at all for my troops. We're going to go ahead and now move on to the yellow player. Bullet is exerting pressure meanwhile on the front of the giant base here. So he's got the Solaris tank there, Zeus tanks, and the Torrent just firing, facing off against Jaguar tanks, Mammoths, and some Porcupines and infantry. And we saw the special active ability for the Solaris tank activate there. Here comes an Albatross bomber scoring a direct hit onto Bullet's army. One bomber alone is not going to cut it though. But that tells us that if we let Red get too comfortable, they're going to get too many bombers on the battlefield. Bullet's just continuing to fire onto the front entrance here. Looks like Bullet's starting to lose some steam here, which is okay. Bullet is going to go ahead and retreat that Solaris tank to save it for another day. And the Vertex are going to come in and clean up those Dragonflies. And so we can see here that red and yellow are very well developed. We're just continuing to relentlessly apply pressure and produce units here. So we're going to go ahead and make some more units here. Meanwhile, we can see that there's another Albatross bomber there. It scored a direct hit on my army. So I'm just going to move my army around a little bit and just reposition. And I'm also going to flag that airfield for Bullet to take out, just so we don't have to deal with any more bombers. And look at this, we can see Red has dropped a bunch of walls, and Red is going for kind of a camping strategy here. And it looks like Yellow is also digging in as well. Both of them have deployed a lot of defensive structures, while Bullet and I are continuing to just hammer at them. We're almost 30 minutes into the game here, and neither the Resistance players have been able to make a decisive move against us yet. Lots of anti-air towers there from the resistance side. Bullet was targeting that Avia factory just to get rid of those bombers. Here comes the Vertex from Bullet, and they're going to clean up that Avia factory very nicely, and they're going to escape. And this is a nice bonus scout that we get onto Yellow. We can see Yellow is transitioning builds, going for a mass Dragonfly build. And here we go, another major engagement unfolding on the battlefield here. It's going to be hammer tanks, fire assaults, and a couple Typhoons and heavy assaults, along with the Solaris tank, making it push against the units in the center here. Lots of Dragonflies in the mix here for the resistance side. Reinforcements are now coming in from the resistance side, and I just don't have enough anti-air units in the mix just yet. So we're gonna have to mix in some more heavy assaults and Typhoons if you want to deal with those Dragonflies effectively. Dragonflies once again moving in to try and take out the Solaris tank from Bullet. Bullet's now making another push. Bullet is going to lose that Solaris tank. My Solaris tank is moving in to reinforce this attack here. And we can see that the resistance side is just trying to micro their Dragonflies, trying to get optimal positioning. And it looks like they're going after my Solaris there. So I'm going to go ahead and retreat my Solaris just so we can move it at a range. Bullets just continue to gather troops. Meanwhile, my army's moving in now. Once again, hammers and fire assaults going in to decimate this fog here. And this is no problem for my units at all. You can notice that I'm not using any kind of boost, and I'm able to dish out some pretty decent damage still. But I'm going to have to retreat at this point. I just don't have enough units mixed in to deal with this many Dragonflies. I got a couple Typhoons and heavy assaults, but that's not going to cut it. And suddenly we can see that Yellow is starting to apply a little more pressure to me now. Meanwhile, Bullet is going to move in the heavy armor to once again apply pressure to the front. My side of the base here is starting to lose its units for defense, so I might be in a little bit of a tough spot if Yellow had reinforcements, but unfortunately Bullet's attack here at the front entrance is enough to pull the resistance players back towards their base to defend. These Zeus tanks are just slugging it out on the battlefield. Dragonflies moving back in to try and defend. Vertex coming in for the aviation support. One of them does get shredded by the anti-air towers. Remember, there's a lot of anti-air towers deployed by both the red and yellow players. These Zeus tanks are now trying to fight it out with the Dragonflies, using their missiles. A couple heavy assaults in the mix as well. These heavy assaults and Zeus tank missiles are probably not going to be enough long term, but it is going to be enough to keep them busy. Meanwhile, my Solaris tank fighting it out with 3 Jaguar tanks. We've been able to finish off 2 of the Jaguar tanks, but my Solaris tank is very heavily damaged. I'm going to try and keep it alive, so I'm going to go ahead and retreat. Meanwhile, looks like we got Thors moving in, and they're going to score a nice direct hit on the red player. Red's probably got a gold common defense boost going, because both Thors are pretty strong and they couldn't take out all the supply centers there. So Dragonflies are now finishing off the last bits of these units here for Bullet, but Bullet is starting to build more reinforcement units, and he's also going to deploy some anti-air towers in the middle there with a construction yard just for map control there. So we got long-range artillery, heavy armor, and we're going to be digging in here while reinforcing the troops. Vertex coming in for Bullet. Bullet is just using enough to take out the units, not enough to fully break the resistance players. Remember, both Bullet and I are trying to do contracts here, so we need to keep these 2 resistance players alive for as long as possible without making a mistake and losing the battle. So something to note with this current setup for the map is it actually makes it in a way easier for both Bullet and I to maintain map control, since the red player walled off the side of their base there. So it means that Bullet can just maintain control of the middle of the map, while I maintain control of the right hand side of the map. And between those 2 locations, that's going to allow us to continue to put pressure on red and yellow, and just keep them on their toes. Solaris tank moving in to try and dish out damage against the fog there. So we're going to try and score some more vehicle kills but the Solaris tank is going to get cleaned up, so I'm going to have to wait to produce another Solaris tank. So it looks like red is dropping walls. That is a questionable choice. I would not pick walls as a thing to drop. Red's probably getting pretty desperate. We see a heavy defensive line from the resistance side. Bullet's got a lot of troops in the mix there. We got Torrents, Zeus tanks, a couple Typhoons in the mix there. It looks like red is dropping even more walls. My troops are now going to move in on the side here. Hammer tanks, Typhoons, fire assaults, and a couple shield generators, I believe. Thor are coming in. They score a direct hit on the fog there. That fog army just gets decimated. And now yellow's in big trouble. I've got enough Typhoons here to take out the Dragonflies, and these Dragonflies are just getting shredded by my Typhoons. Hammer tanks now moving in. I know that I've got yellow at my mercy, essentially. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to retreat. Again, I don't want to finish off the yellow player just yet. I'm just going to leave my infantry to take out a couple factories here just to put pressure on yellow and stress out the yellow player. We can see that yellow is HQ5. Red is dropping more walls. So we can see that this is probably not working out for the resistance side. They're just continuing to be relentlessly hammered by both Bullet and I. Infantry here trying to see if we can finish off that special vehicle factory. Some more infantry just being drawn by artillery fire, but Bullet is smart enough to micro the infantry away. Looks like my infantry have been mostly cleaned up. I've got another Solaris tank out. Vertex swinging in to score a couple hits on the resistance side. And we're going to be continuing to just produce more units here. So we can see that there's a couple defensive lines here, one by my troops and one by Bullet's troops. Thors are continuing to just bomb the resistance side. I told Bullet to scout for a nuke, because we don't want to be caught off guard by a nuke. Luckily there's no nuclear missile from what we've seen so far. Here comes my Seraphim, scoring some hits on the Armadillo there. I'm going to miss, though, unfortunately, with the Punishment Warheads, and I'm going to have to retreat there. So we're still collecting kills with the heroes to try and fulfill the contract again. We can see that Bullet is steadily building the defensive line with those anti-air towers and his heavy armor. And we can see that there's a lot of armadillos in the mix there for the resistance side. And I believe that yellow is starting to transition with the build there. We can see quite a bit of armadillos actually, and a few porcupines for anti-air and a chameleon as well. So I've got the shield generator, the Seraphim, and the Solaris tank. Here come the Thors from Bullet. Bullet's going to score a nice hit there and take out a few units from the resistance defensive line. And I'm just continuing to accumulate units. We can see that there is now a very dominant amount of armadillos instead of dragonflies. So I don't quite have the right composition entirely to take on this army, but I do have plenty of hammer tanks. So I'm going to go ahead and move my hammer tanks in, and we're going to see what kind of damage we can do against these armadillos. And we can see my hammer tanks are just continuing to chase these armadillos back to their own base. And we can see there's factories continuing to produce armadillos. Bullet continuing to harass with the Vertex there, scoring some nice hits against the anti-air towers. One of those towers is going to go down, but again, we can see there's so many anti-air towers from the resistance side. Looks like my tanks are now fighting it out once again with the armadillos. Again, I'm not boosting, so I'm not fully breaking the yellow player quite yet. Looks like Bullet's going to be moving in at the same time I'm retreating. Bullet is going to be securing that large resource container in the middle of the map there. He's got the heavy armor with the Zeus tanks. He's got the Solaris tank to support, and he's got a couple heavy assaults in the mix there. Meanwhile, I've got hammer tanks, a couple shield generators, and a couple cyclones. Looks like there's some grenadiers starting to come in for the resistance side, and I don't want to get the hammer tanks too caught up in fighting the grenadiers. That's not going to end well for my hammer tanks. We can see there's just a lot of action unfolding on the battlefield here. We can see that the resistance side at the front lines in the center of the map trying to fight it out, artillery and dragonflies with walls against Bullet's forces. Meanwhile, on my end, I am losing quite a bit of my forces here, and I can't afford to lose my full ground army. I am continuing to constantly reinforce, though. I've got multiple factories, continue to just pump out vehicles. And here comes my Seraphim, scoring some hits with the missiles there. And we're going to try to move in once again. We can see that Yellow's got a decent-sized army. It's slightly smaller than my army, but still a decent amount of troops there to defend with. My hammer tanks are moving in once again. I just lost the Seraphim, and now my hammer tanks are going to move in, try to dish out damage. We see a Jaguar tank in the mix along with the armadillos. Yellow is taking some heavy casualties here. I am also taking heavy casualties here. However, I've got multiple factories and the economy to replace my vehicles as long as I'm not too aggressive with my gameplay. So, Bullet is slowly moving the front line closer and closer, just continuing to produce more units. Vertex coming right back in. They're going to score a couple hits onto the resistance side there. A couple fire assaults there that I mismicroed, and they're going to get cleaned up. So I'm moving my army in once again. Got a few Cyclones, Hammer tanks, Typhoons, and a Solaris tank for heavy support. Vertex coming in once again for Bullet. They're going to score another hit. And we're going to move the vehicles in. Let's see what kind of damage we can do. And it looks like Yellow is still putting up quite a fight here, trying to fend off our incursions. And let's see that special ability activate from the Solaris tank. Except that the Solaris tank still needs to reload. Unfortunately, that would have been a prime opportunity otherwise. But that's okay. Hammer tanks are just continuing to clean up these ground troops, though, from the resistance side. But now there's Grenadiers starting to come back into the mix, and I don't have anything to fully counter the Grenadiers. So I might have to retreat here pretty soon. Armadillos are just continuing to pour out from the Yellow player's base. So I'm going to go ahead and retreat now. I just don't have enough to counter the Grenadiers. Seraphim moving in. Punishment Warheads score a couple hits there on the Grenadiers, but again, that's not going to be enough. Seraphim is going to retreat. Solaris scores a nice hit with the Chain Lightning, and my vehicles are going to continue to just hold this middle point here. Just continue to harass the Yellow player here while I rebuild my army count. And we get a nice scout there from Bullet. Bullet is scouting the Red player's base. Red is still on HQ4 at this time. We're already almost 50 minutes into the game, and we can see that Bullet's dropped a few more factories there, just continue to pump out vehicles. Cyclones are going to move in. We see a mix of armadillos with porcupines there, and let's see what happens here. My tanks are going to go ahead and move in. We got a few fire assaults for the Grenadiers. Solaris tank scores a nice direct hit with the active ability, and those fire assaults are now trying to move in. That's a lot of Grenadiers. Can my fire assault get to the Grenadiers? I'm not sure. Got a couple Cyclones in the mix just in case, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I don't have quite enough to punch through. Yellow did a really good job cleaning up my fire assaults first, which is going to minimize my army's effectiveness against the resistance army. So I'm going to go ahead and retreat here. Seraphim coming in once again. Going to use the punishment warheads, and we're going to score a few hits there against the infantry. And this is going to be a nice combination here. Fire assaults with the Seraphim. Just trying to clean up the last bits of units here before my Seraphim goes down. So hammer tanks are starting to move in to the side there. I think that was a miss micro. And I'm actually going to retreat my hammer tanks. I don't want to punch through the front entrance there quite yet. Armadillos are now moving in to make another push against my army here. We see the Chameleon in mix there. And I don't think I have enough tanks here. I'm going to throw on a red vehicle attack boost now just because my vehicle count's a little bit lower. So we're going to go ahead and try to take care of these units here. And that's a lot of Grenadiers. I'm going to need to stay away from those Grenadiers, though. Grenadiers are bad news for hammer tanks. And look at that. We have 63% activity, and the resistance side has only 20% activity. So we have triple the activity. If the resistance side doesn't do anything in the next 10 minutes, we're going to win this battle on activity. So we can see that Bullet's once again moving another heavy armor grouping into the center of the map there, and is dropping a couple rocket towers. The resistance side is making a really big push on the side of the map there, and actually flagged it to ask for Bullet's help. Here comes Bullet with the Thors, and watches the Thors just absolutely level the entire army from the resistance side. Resistance side's push just gets stopped cold. Bullet, meanwhile, putting pressure on the center of the map. On my side of the map, I've been able to regroup and defend here. I'm probably going to lose an Avia factory here pretty soon to this Grenadiers, but that's okay. Red is desperately trying to drop walls. We can tell that Red is truly running out of options here against the Bullet here. Meanwhile, on our end, we just continue to fight it out here. I've got the production advantage since I'm close to my base, so I'm going to be able to reinforce more easily compared to the resistance side. So I've got my hammer tanks and fire assaults in the mix there, fighting it out with the armadillos, grenadiers, and the mole there. We see a porcupine in the mix there, firing onto my cyclones. Bullet is continuing to try and push through the walls here. Bullet's only got a few troops here, but again, really all we need to do is just maintain combat momentum and just maintain activity, and we'll be able to win this battle. Thor is coming in. They just level the last bits of the resistance army, and they're now just down to that mole and safe mode. Meanwhile, Grenadiers are going to clean up that last Zeus tank from Bullet. Bullet's got a really nice defensive line with a couple rocket towers and a couple anti-air towers, so there's no way the resistance side can punch through the center. In the meantime, we're just continuing to reinforce both sides, both the center of the map and the side of the map. I've got those fire assaults to deal with the infantry and hammer tanks to deal with the vehicles. So I tell Bullet that he's got to move his Zeus tanks back. He's got a couple Zeus tanks there slugging it out with the armadillos. The armadillos have the number advantage though, and we want to make sure we keep those Zeus tanks alive. We got a nice defensive line set up. I've got that shield generator at the side there. We can see meanwhile Bullet's front line. Bullet's got those rocket towers fighting it out with the infantry. Resistance are desperately trying to pour in grenadier spam to take care of Bullet's armies. So we can see that the fighting is just continuing to unfold on both fronts of this map here. Rocket towers and anti-air towers and Zeus tanks for Bullet's side of things, and Typhoons with hammer tanks and shield generators on my side of things. Resistance making another push now. We see infantry mixed in with armadillos and porcupines. Gonna throw on that shield generator. Looks like the battery is gonna run out though for the generator. And there we go. We're coming up on about 5 minutes to go here. Can the resistance side gather enough activity to break through? Here we go. We're going to counterattack now with the hammer tanks and the shield generators, and this time I'm going to use a red common attack boost. So we're going to try and break the front lines here. One of my contracts that I need to do is to destroy enough buildings with the hammer tanks, and we're going to see if we can slowly clean up the rest of the vehicles from the yellow player. And here we go. 5 minutes to go now. Thors just level a big portion of the resistance base there. We're at 56% activity to 26% activity. So the resistance side was able to gain about 6% activity in the last 5 minutes, but that is not going to be anywhere close to enough. And we can see that the resistance side is just continuing to slug it out with Bullet on this front line here. Those walls and the mammoth tanks making it a little bit difficult for Bullet to punch through. But again, Bullet's only using a handful of tanks. It is not doing a full commit at this time. We're just trying to maintain pressure on the resistance players. So that last Zeus tank, he is going to get cleaned up. So that's no problem at all. The resistance side does not have enough troops to punch through. There's only 4 minutes left in the game. The resistance side now trying to push with a couple more units here. But Bullet's got another Solaris tank, some more infantry in the mix, and Zeus tanks. So now another army grouping has partially moved up, cleared out some units, and is now going to retreat. And we can see here that I'm just continuing to build my army count at the side there. And here we go, a Leviathan has made its way onto the battlefield. And this is probably the last ditch attempt from both the red and yellow players. Yellow's going to launch a tactical nuke. That nuke has really bad aim, and I think that yellow player just nuked their own troops instead. So much for that Hail Mary attempt. And so now I've split my ground army here. We got a red vehicle attack boost. Now I need to really take care of these vehicles. I've split my army up. We've got my Typhoons going after the Leviathan. Thor's coming in to level a big portion of the resistance side's base. And we can see that the Leviathan is desperately trying to fight it out with Bullet's forces. Now I'm moving in with my hammer tanks and the shield generator. I've got about 90 command points worth of units. And really the resistance side is just truly running out of options. There's only 2 minutes left in the game. This Leviathan is trying to fight it out against Bullet's army, but is just heavily outnumbered and outgunned. My troops are also moving in now. There's a couple vehicles from the yellow player's side of things, but that is just not going to be enough. My hammer tanks are now going to move in to decimate the yellow player's base as much as possible before this battle ends. So, this is pretty much the end of the battle. The rest of it's really just me completing the contract, and the battle is going to finish up to the last bit here. And we can see that we're going to win easily on activity. Alright, hopefully you all enjoyed this battle. This is a fun one to fight. Pretty chill overall. Good luck in your battles. We'll see you in the next one.